the old saying goes, pressure breaks pipes. We know this. You know, some dudes are cut for the postseason, some are not. There's like 3 levels of what stars do in the postseason, not just the NBA, but any sport. Okay, either they stay consistent and they are exactly what they are in the regular season. They elevate their game and they're even better in the postseason than they are in the regular season, or the moment's too big for them and they decline. Their production declines. And so here, I've got a list of 5 players, in my opinion, that have the most pressure on them going into the playoffs. So since this is a segment about pressure, let's get the pressure music, some intense music going on right now. Let's start with number 5 on my list of the top 5 players in basketball coming into the playoffs that have the most pressure on them. Start with number 5, the reigning Finals MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yes, you heard me right. Now, he's got less pressure this year than last year, obviously, because he got the monkey off his back last year, winning a championship, playing phenomenal in the NBA Finals, averaging, I think, 35, 12, and, I think 2 blocks or something crazy, and he was obviously closed it out with the 50-point masterpiece. Here's the thing, though. My theory on if you're the best player in the world, and I think Giannis is the best player in the world, you're always going to be expected to not just, get better in the postseason, but do what you did last year. And the Bucks are a team that I said before the season I think can get to the NBA Finals, and I think will get to the NBA Finals. But I think at the end of the day for Giannis is, for years we put pressure on LeBron. We expected LeBron every year to win a championship when he was the best player. Well, now I think we need to put that same pressure on Giannis. And so that is why he's number 5 on my list. Reigning Finals MVP, very well might do it again this year, and he's at my number 5. Number 4, the guy who, in my opinion, should finish second to Giannis in this year's MVP voting, Joel Embiid. Now, Joel Embiid has always been very, very interesting in the postseason, because most of the time his issues haven't been just simply, he didn't raise his level of play in the playoffs. A lot of times with Embiid, it's been health. I mean, remember a few years ago, it wasn't like a knee or an ankle or something. No, he was sick. He reportedly had like upper respiratory or something. And it limited him in the remainder of that series where they lost to the Raptors, where obviously Kawhi hit that shot heard around the world that bounced 4 times before going in. But Joel Embiid has had opportunities, has been in Game 7s, has had an opportunity to produce. In that Game 7 against the Raptors, wasn't all that great. That Game 7 against the Hawks last year came up small. And also something else about Embiid. He seems to kind of wear down in these series, especially once you get to the second round, and I think Philadelphia will probably get to the second round. But is he in enough shape to get to the finish line, to take the 76ers where they think they can go, certainly after they made that Harden trade, and that's to go win an NBA championship? There's a big question around that, and that's why Joel Embiid is number 4 on my list. Going to number 3 now, a guy who I thought probably a year ago was the best player on the planet. My man Kevin Durant. The thing about Kevin Durant is this, and going to Brooklyn. He came to Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving. A year later, James Harden came along, and KD has never won a championship. She's been to 1 finals without the Golden State Warriors. And so our expectation is, coming off the Achilles, okay, he's proven that he's still Kevin Durant, even, after that terrible Achilles injury. He's still that dude. He's still the most gifted scorer that I've ever seen. But last year, Nets kind of fell apart, but KD is, shows up in that Game 7. I think scores like 49, plays unbelievable, but he goes 0 for 7 in the overtime period and airballed the game-tying shot. So this go-around, with the expectations where they were at with the Nets going into this season, I mean, can you imagine what it would do for KD's legacy if he wins a championship without the Warriors? Could we argue it elevates him into a top 10 player ever? You'd be talking about 3 championships, likely 3 finals MVPs, a regular season MVP, 4 scoring titles. That's one heck of a resume. Again, for that reason, for legacy purposes, I think there's a lot on KD's shoulder. And who knows? Maybe he could take the title from Giannis as the best player on the planet. Giannis took it from him last year. Maybe KD can return the favor in 2022. At number 2, one of my favorite players in the league, the point god, Chris Paul. You know I love Chris Paul. If my Warriors weren't in contention, I would root hard for the Phoenix Suns to go win it all. And again, they very well might win it. Chris Paul in the games he played this year was excellent. He led the NBA in assists this season at about 10, I think it was 10.8, 11 assists per game. He's been excellent. The Suns have been by far the best team in the league, clinched the best record of basketball weeks ago. So they've been great. They won 64 games. That's a franchise record. We thought last year was Chris Paul's best chance to win a championship. Didn't play so well. After the first 2 games in the finals, got outplayed by Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. Okay, so this go around, Chris Paul's 36, 37 years old. Time's winding down in his career. He's one of the greatest point guards ever do it. I've said in the show, a championship puts him in the top 5 all time at his position, in my view. But he's got to play for the Suns to try and go make a run at a championship, which obviously they have a great chance to do. Chris Paul's got to play big. And so that's why he's number 2 on my list. And number 1, folks, he's got to show up at some point. James Harden. James Harden, I hate to have to do this again because I don't like piling on. I think social media does that enough. James Harden, 2015 with the Houston Rockets, he finishes second to Steph Curry for the most valuable player. He faces Steph Curry and the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. Not only do his Rockets get bounced in 5 games, but in that decisive win-or-go-home Game 5, he sets the NBA record for the most turnovers in a game in playoff history. I think it was 14. He was terrible. 2 years later, James Harden once again finishes second for MVP, this time behind Russell Westbrook. That year, I thought James should have won the award. Nevertheless, down 3-2 against the San Antonio Spurs. You've got a home game. You got a game in your home building. The Spurs don't have Kawhi Leonard or Tony Parker. And you lose by 39. And James Harden was miserable in that game. He was terrible. And so that component onto it, you come to a year later, you have Chris Paul as your teammate now. You win the MVP this season. You're the most valuable player according to the NBA writers. Chris Paul goes down in Game 5, but in the Western Conference Finals against the Warriors, but you have a 3-2 lead. Got a game at Golden State. If you lose that, no harm, no foul. You can go win back at home in Game 7. The Rockets had a 17-point lead in Game 6. And they lost by nearly 30. They had a 15-point lead in Game 7. And the Rockets, led by James Harden, proceeded to go 0 for 27 from 3-point range and lose the game by 9. A year later, karma comes back and bites the Warriors. This time, it's the Rockets who are healthy and the Warriors who have Kevin Durant go down in Game 5. Rockets are down 3-2, but best player in the series is gone for the remainder of the series. You've got a Game 6 at home, and Steph Curry goes 0 for. Did not score a point in the first half. Goes off for 33 in the second half. James Harden could not make a big shot down the stretch, and the Rockets lose. And then last year, Kyrie Irving's out. You've got a Game 7 on your home floor against the Milwaukee Bucks. KD plays out of his mind, scores nearly 50, and James Harden couldn't throw it in the ocean. Yes, he was injured with a hamstring. I understand that. But how many times have we seen dudes that are hurt or sick go out there and dominate? So James Harden's had every opportunity to go out there and show up in the playoffs, and he hasn't. So this year, when it looks like we're starting to see signs of age from James, he's got a shot. He's got maybe the MVP on his roster. What you going to do? So James Harden's number 1 on my list on the top 5 players going into the playoffs with the most pressure on them. Again, we'll look at the list once again. Giannis is 5, Embiid's 4, KD's 3, CP3's 2, and James Harden, the beard, is number 1. Top 5 players in the playoffs with the most pressure. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.